Hello my dear friends, Terrier55 Stepney here. Now this is a very silly video. Sometimes in life we have to be a bit silly, and I'm just living all of those moments in one go. So here's how this is going to work. I have made a GIF of a bunch of characters from Thomas the Tank Engine, and I've put them all together in a random way. You can see, I can just see Bill's face just, oh, it's turned to Omelette. Omelette? It's turned to Omelette. I could just see Bill's face just appearing, evilly looking at me every so often, and I'm a little unnerved by it. We have a random selection of Thomas photos. We also have a random wheel generator. It doesn't create wheels, as the name may suggest. What I've done is put a load of scenarios into the wheel, and we're gonna see what it comes up with. It'll match to that character, and whatever that is, we're just going to have to rate it out of 10 as to how likely the character suits that scenario as such. For instance, if we spin the wheel, it could be, how likely are they to complain about the increasing price of a Freddo? And then we go back to our character selector, and we get that ugly mug of James. I'm spinning around and out of my head. How many partners are they able to pull? Well, I suppose they have the benefit of being trains. So, Emily. Right. Okay. All of the main cast, I've gone like for the classic 1 to 11 plus Bill and Ben, I think. That might be it. And Emily, although I suppose Emily's number 12. 1 to 12 and Bill and Ben. And of all of those, it stops on Emily. Yeah, well, this is a little bit awkward to talk about, isn't it? How many partners is Emily likely to pull? Well, if you went to Thomas' Twitter, I'm sure there's many people who'd give you an immediate answer and personify Emily with having the very long flowing hair with a cylinder covering thing and big wheels. Yeah. But if we're talking about Emily as in her characteristics, her persona, then, well, she's a bit of a boss in season 8, is it? She's stubborn, right? I don't think she needs a partner. I don't think she'd want one. She's her own engine. She's her, herself, and I, but not me. We're talking about Emily here. I mean, her thing in the song is she really knows her stuff. That's it. Her defining trait is she knows what she's talking about, or at least, she thinks she does. That's it. She's just stubborn. I know she's sort of more like motherly or sisterly later on and in the CGI era, but even then she doesn't really look up to many others. Oh no, there was Caitlin, I suppose, right? She looked up to Caitlin in that one CGI episode where they turned her into a giant cucumber. Yeah, okay. For that reason, I would give that a 4 out of 10. 4 for Emily. Ooh. My voice doesn't go that high. They keep a photo of the king in their wallet. How likely on a scale of 1 to 10? It's Emily again. Okay, well, as you can see, this is a random selection. How likely is Emily to keep a photo of the king in her pocket, if she had a pocket? In her toolbox? I don't know. You know what? I think that's quite likely. I think there was that one episode where she was complaining about everyone else having a really good job, and she was like, wow, at Gordon because he pulled the queen when she visited Sodor, which won't happen again now. So I think maybe she's quite a royalist, I don't know. But then she is Scottish. Tricky one, that. I think Emily's quite a patriotic engine. She's also quite like an epitome of sort of like a British steam engine. Like the Stirling single is like such a typically Victorian look for a steam engine. So, I bet she was Victoria's biggest fan and wanted to be like her. So, for keeping a photo of the king in a storage compartment in a tender, yeah, quite likely. I'd give that a solid 7. It's not too solid. I was very unsure there, but a 7 nonetheless. Let's see if we can have someone who isn't Emily. How many partners are they able to pull? Again. Okay, this time it's Bill or Ben. I don't know which one that is. I think that's Bill. I think that's the number 1. How many partners is Bill able to pull? No offense, Bill, but I don't give you much hope. You're quite small. You have a very small funnel. If we're talking like literally how many can you pull, then you're a little saddle tank engine. You're not going to be able to pull anything really. You also have an identical twin, and I don't know why, but I've always preferred Ben over Bill for no reason whatsoever. Maybe I just don't like the name Bill, I'm not sure. So if that's anything to go by, then others may feel the same. When you have an identical twin and you're still not the preferred option, yeah, not looking good for our Bill. He's green with envy. He's also a little prick, let's be honest. Look at that smile. That is not the smile of someone you want to be with. These are trains, and really we shouldn't be talking about being able to couple up with them. That's not what their couplings are for. Please just look at the engines just as machines. Don't... Oh, I'm setting this up for failure. But anyway, whilst we're here, I'd give Bill a 1. I really don't have much hope for the lad. Sorry. Ben might get a 2. There you go. Fits their numbers. Let's see if it's the same now, but it comes up for Ben. That would be very appropriate. How likely are they to have nightmares that are actually better than their real life and crave the sweet release of being in the trance of sleep? Right, well, this is quite a dark one, but nonetheless, let's see whose nightmares are still better than their real actual life. Oliver, again. Yeah, I see it. Again, we've just mentioned Oliver got traumatized. He literally had to dress up as if he was going to die in order to escape and reach salvation. He found his rails to salvation. But even so, I think, yeah, Oliver's an engine that tries to be all like brave and boastful, but really he has fears because of what he's gone through. He's also scared of fireworks, right? Though, of course, you can check out I Love Trains 323's episode where he did write Oliver as the one who was in the episode. There you go, Nathan, there's a plug for you. Yeah, I think Oliver's ridiculously boastful. He'll brag that he's got like the best dreams and he had really cool nightmares which are like on the edgy side, but, you know, desperately trying to cling on to popularity. But in reality, yeah, he's probably thinking, oh, my life's rubbish. Even Toad left him and became Douglas's brake van. Like, Oliver has nothing. He's got 2 coaches and one of them doesn't speak and the other one we don't really know anything about, but the one time they speak they say they don't like him, so not going well for Oliver. I would give that a pretty strong 9. I think the only one that would have beaten that would be like Henry, who's scared of everything and is a wimp, so quite good, a 9 for Oliver. Getting a lot of repeat characters already, so let's see if we can get a new one with the question: how likely are they to secretly be a secret agent? Would they successfully be able to save your life in a situation where they have to cut the right wire? That's kind of like 2 questions in one, but that's an interesting one. Is it really the job of a secret agent to like cut wires? I don't know, but anyway. That's not good. The illustration is not good, but also the fact that it's Big Face Percy. Yeah, not sure. He looks like Colin the Caterpillar cake there in this illustration, which I found on the wiki. Like, proportion-wise, it all looks correct. You know, they've got that stupid all the way round saddle tank that Dolby gave them, and, you know, without the face there, the smoke box kind of looks like it makes sense for that shape, but somehow the face is just huge on him. Can you imagine that as a secret agent? I can't. I'm going to save the world, Thomas. I don't know about that one, Percy. Blue wire, red wire, what colour's red? Oh no! Yeah, I think Percy would struggle a lot. I would not risk my life or put my life into the care of Percy the small engine. Look at that face. I'm just happy to be here. Even the brake pipe in that illustration annoys me. It's right above the coupling and it's also just like tiny. It looks like he could just eat it. Please don't. You won't be able to move. I would give Percy a 0. I have no faith in him. Even when he was like at his bravest in like season 5, when he had to go through all of that stuff and he was put upon, him actually being relied on to save the world and be a James Bond, no chance. Absolutely not. At most, he is the jester of a sidekick. He's definitely not the hero of the day. Oh, look at his dome in that illustration as well. It's just awful. I hate that. It's so just stubby. I never thought I'd look at an illustration of Percy with such disgust and disdain. Sorry, Percy. Who's joining Percy on his quest to save the world? How likely are they to set fire to themselves whilst doing a very mundane task? This is an interesting one. This is a fun one. Let's see. We've got Donald. Okay. I was not thinking of Donald in this scenario. I thought it was going to come up with like James or Henry or someone. Donald accidentally setting fire to himself. Well, if he did it whilst like clearing the line of snow, that would be an achievement, right? That would be impressive. How likely is he to? Not very, to be honest. I don't know, it depends what we're counting as a mundane task here. Sort of like making a cup of tea and then the whole room just catches on fire. That kind of scenario. Actually not very high. I think, as we said earlier, Donald's the more sensible of the two. And yes, he does contain a fire within him. Literally, not really metaphorically. I'd give it a 2. I think things do still go wrong for Donald. I also never remember Donald Douglas being drawn in this style as a child, but that's interesting to see now, having grown up. Is it Ken Stott? Is it the illustrator? Nice little style. It's very childlike, but it looks friendly. You spin me right round, Daisy. Right round. I didn't include Daisy in this. Probably should have. How likely are they to have an existed? I'm having one now. One of those again. Let's see now. It's Donald again. Okay. This likes coming up with the same character twice for some reason. How likely is Donald to have an existential crisis? Not as high. Not as high as Oliver, I don't think. Donald did escape being scrapped, but he was bought by the Fat Controller, and Douglas tagged along. Douglas was never really in the firing line as such, but his twin was, so still that element there of like, the fear of death, as it were. But Donald's a more sensible engine. I don't think he'd pay too much attention to the weight of living. Although, he's slightly wiser, so perhaps he thinks about it. Perhaps it's crossed his mind, but I don't think it's something that would stop him. He's quite a fearless, defiant soul, so maybe a 3. I don't think it's a very high chance. Is anyone else having an existential crisis? Might be just from watching this video. They ate a dinosaur-shaped cookie once and woke up in a bath full of ice. They also boast that they once met a celebrity, but it was just a wax figure from Madame Tussauds. The wheel has broken. There's 2 options here. I don't know which one to go for. Maybe we'll do both, but separately, because these are very different scenarios. Something's gone wrong somewhere. Why are these 2 together? Okay, well, let's answer the first one first. They ate something once and woke up in a bath full of ice. You can work out yourself what happened to them. Ben! It's gotta be the ugliest drawing of Ben there is to date. I'm sure someone will fix that soon. What is that face? He looks like a pug. Not like the tank engine type, just like the dog variety. He aged terribly. Suppose he couldn't be young forever, but still. I have just noticed he's got a works plate in that photo. I've never noticed that before, but that's nice. Doesn't really matter though. Ben once ate a dinosaur-shaped cookie and woke up in a bath full of ice. Down the Drain by Christopher Aldrich. Yeah, I could see it happening. Oh, that looks good enough to eat, Bill. It's just, yeah, it goes very downhill very quickly. I can imagine Ben doing something stupid like that and just not thinking about the consequences. Bill and Ben are like fighting over something to eat, and Ben's like, "Oh, I'm gonna take you first," and he takes a bite, and then Bill just finds him the next day at the back of the China clay quarry. His driver comes up and he's like, "Oh, something's broken inside you, Ben." And Ben's like, "Oh no, my boiler's missing, Bill." Yeah, I'd give that an absolute 9 out of 10. I give him a little bit of hope because Ben is better than Bill, but it's not quite a 10. Give him a 9 for that. And the other scenario, because it came up with that, they boast that they once met a celebrity, but it was just a wax figure from Madame Tussauds. Yes, again, that's quite high. I can imagine them doing that. That time when he went to get new buffers. You never guess what, Bill? I met Winston Churchill, and yeah, it goes along that route, but really it was just a wax figure. As a bragging right, give him a 10 for that. There you go, Ben 10. They would flip the table and start smashing the button with an axe if another contestant gets a question right on a game show that they're on. Okay, so basically, they're in a game show, someone else gets the question right, and they have a tantrum. Who, you may ask? Well, that would be Douglas, again. They like the twins in this random selection, clearly. I don't think Douglas would flip out, necessarily. I don't want to, stereotype a Scot as being really angry. I don't think that's fair. And whilst Douglas is, irrational, perhaps sometimes, I don't think he'd, completely lose it if he was on a game show. Even if it was against Donald, I think, they'd argue, but he wouldn't completely lash out. Though that would be a funny scene. For that reason, I'd give that a 3 out of 10. Off we go, here we go, off we go. How likely are they to reveal too much detail when someone asks them where babies come from? Okay, right. I mean, this is presuming they know where babies come from. They are trains. Again, of all the choices, I can't imagine Percy does know where babies come from. Pretty sure people have done videos on that. They've done comedy skits where Percy asks dumb questions like that, right? What do you mean they come from a giant stalk in the sky? It's just what Percy sounds like apparently in my world. Who created this abomination? But he goes into too much detail. The only reason that would happen would be in Bluebells of England, where someone's told Percy what's happening and he recounts it as best he can but sort of forgets a lot of the details. I don't know who would go to Percy to ask him such information, but other than that, I don't hold out much hope that he would know. So for that, I'd give him 3. We'd give him a 3, because on the basis that he does know, I think he would go into too much detail. But I don't think this little caterpillar cake knows anything, so let's do one more. We've missed a lot of characters. We haven't had Thomas, Edward, Henry, Gordon, Toby, or Duck. So let's see if we get one of those this time. How likely, again, are they to have an existential crisis? Goodness me, I could remove these questions from the table, obviously, but it's interesting when it comes up with different characters. Let's see. Gordon, there we go, we got a new one. I mean, this illustration is perfect again for making it look like he is midway through an existential crisis. He's going at like 80 miles an hour down the main line and he's just like, but where did my brothers go? There's literally that scene in Tenders for Henry when the Fat Controller just straight up tells him, all of your siblings have been scrapped. Sorry I didn't tell you before. Whoops. Oh dear, how sad. I'll invite your other one round for a sleepover. Yeah, I kind of feel sorry for Gordon. Like, I think he's one of the few engines that the Fat Controller does, like, directly trust to have, like, mature conversations with like that. Just the fact that Gordon asks those questions, I think, warrant an answer. So, I'm sure that they've also discussed the reality of living. Gordon questions his own self-worth. If I don't have the Express, I'm not Gordon the Express engine, I'm just Gordon the engine. Actually, no, wait, he's Gordon the blue engine, isn't he? Oh, well, that's alright then, he's still blue. But of course he's feeling blue because he's having an existential crisis. I would give Gordon the likelihood of 10 for having an existential crisis. I think the poor bloke has just, he's suffering. He has Express level thoughts and Express level fears. Just because that was a different one, let's spin it one last time. Round we go. It's the likelihood that they'd rate themselves a 10 out of 10. It's... oh, for goodness sake, it's Douglas again. I mean, with a face like that, I can't imagine himself giving a 10 out of 10 for looks. Oh, but he's number 10, isn't he? Oh, yeah, I can imagine Douglas giving himself a 10 out of 10. He's the number 10 engine. I think even as a joke he'd probably do that, right? So, yeah, let's give that a 10. I think that's fair to say. He'd say it as a joke. I don't think he'd mean it, but he's literally number 10. He is number 10 Downing Street. Douglas is the door. He's painted black as well. Right, well, what you've just witnessed may just have been me having an existential crisis, but if you have somehow enjoyed this very wacky video, then let me know in the comments and leave a like to show it. What are your thoughts on all of the questions that have come up today relating to the characters? Would you rate them any different to how I have? And what do you think it'd be like if other characters had been chosen instead? Because I'm sure these are scenarios that these characters have never been written into and probably were never meant to. But it's nice to look at things from a different perspective, right? No, this is probably me just losing my mind. 10 out of 10. Nevertheless, if you want me to do more things like this, then I might if I get bored again. Subscribe so you don't miss that, of course, and become a patron of this channel by following the link in the description. Yeah, you know all of that. And until next time when we do a more serious video perhaps, goodbye! A big thank you to all of my brilliant patrons. Alex Goodman, GBH Train, D0280 Falcon, Sean Tempest, Nat, Random Thomas Fan, Peter Davenport, Ego, Kildane's Coven, Insane Edward, Dark White 73, Not Duke, The Sudrian Git, and Andrew Diak.